Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Missing climbers Mohammad Ali Satpara of Pakistan, Iceland's John Snorri and Chile's Juan Pablo Moore have been officially declared dead. The announcement was made during a press conference which was attended by their family members in Skardu. Talking to the media, Ali Satpara's son said he will continue his father's mission to summit all 14 mountains of above 8,000 meters. The three climbers who lost contact with the base camp on the 5th of February while descending K2, the world's second tallest peak. In Pakistan, authorities say the country will begin the second phase of the coronavirus vaccination drive next month. People above 65 years will be given AstraZeneca shots in the second phase after the delivery of 2.8 million doses from the UN-led COVAX facility. Pakistan has so far reported 12,488 deaths and over 567,000 cases of infection. Globally, there are over 110 million infections and more than 2.4 million deaths. In Pakistan, the Chinese ambassador called on Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Rawalpindi, where the two sides discussed the regional security situation. According to military's media wing, the envoy acknowledged Pakistan's efforts for regional peace and stability. The Army Chief said the successful completion of the China-Pakistan economic corridor will benefit both the countries. He also appreciated China's unwavering support to Pakistan at international forums. China has urged the United States to return to the Iran nuclear deal and lift all sanctions on Tehran. It also called on Iran to restore its full implementation of the agreement. In Myanmar, clashes have erupted between police and anti-coup protesters in the capital Naypyidaw and other main cities. Police used a water cannon and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. Earlier, hackers attacked multiple military-run government websites, including State Bank and the state-run broadcaster MYANMAR TV. And in tennis, world number one Novak Djokovic has stormed into the final of the Australian Open after beating Aslan Karatsev in straight sets. He will face either Stefanos Tsitsipas or Daniil Medvedev in the final on Sunday. In the women's singles, Naomi Osaka will face Jennifer Brady for the title. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Missing climbers Mohammad Ali Satpara of Pakistan, Iceland's John Snorri and Chile's Juan Pablo Moore have been officially declared dead. The announcement was made during a press conference which was attended by their family members in Skardu. The three climbers were last seen near a bottleneck on K2 earlier this month, but bad weather thwarted multiple attempts to search for them. Talking to the media, Ali Satpara's son said he will continue his father's mission to summit all 14 mountains of above 8,000 meters. He said the overwhelming support for his father from across Pakistan has given immense strength to his family. The head of the Afghan MASSOUD Foundation, Ahmad Wali Massoud, has hailed Pakistan's role in the Afghan peace process. He said this during a meeting with Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan in Islamabad. During the meeting, the Prime Minister reiterated that there is no military solution to the conflict in Afghanistan. He said all sides must work for a reduction in violence leading to a ceasefire in Afghanistan. According to Pakistan's Foreign Office, the visit of Wali Massoud is part of Pakistan's policy to reach out to the Afghan political leadership and deepen people-to-people ties. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg says the alliance's forces will not leave Afghanistan unless they believe the time and the situation is right. At a virtual meeting of the NATO defense ministers, Stoltenberg said the May 1st exit of all US troops from Afghanistan under the Doha Agreement is conditional. He said NATO fully supports the peace process and the implementation of the peace deal. But he said the Taliban must meet their commitments under the Doha Pact if they want the demand of the troops' exit to be met. He reasserted the importance of momentum in the peace talks, saying that it is the only path to peace. Stoltenberg added all allies, including the US, will make the decision to leave together when the time is right. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says Pakistan attaches immense importance to its ties with the Arab League. He said this while talking to the organization's Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghaith in Cairo. The Foreign Minister said Pakistan has strong political and trade relations with all Arab League countries. Qureshi briefed the Secretary General about grave human rights violations in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. He also apprised Abul Ghaith about Pakistan's role as a facilitator in the Afghan peace process. Earlier, Qureshi called on Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and the two sides vowed to enhance and diversify bilateral ties. In Pakistan, the Chinese ambassador called on Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Rawalpindi, where the two sides discussed the regional security situation. According to the military's media wing, the envoy acknowledged Pakistan's efforts for regional peace and stability. The Army Chief said the successful completion of the China-Pakistan economic corridor will benefit both the countries. He also appreciated China's unwavering support to Pakistan at international forums and thanked China over the provision of coronavirus vaccines. Pakistan has slammed India for organizing a visit of its cherry-picked EU parliamentarians in occupied Kashmir. In a press briefing, the Foreign Office spokesperson said such visits are a smokescreen aimed at diverting global attention away from India's rights violations in the valley. He said such visits are meaningless if the observers do not have access to all the areas. He added that a meeting between the parliamentarians and the Hurriyat leaders would have revealed the ground realities of the situation in the valley. The spokesperson called on India to organize a visit of the UN observers to occupied Kashmir to assess the real situation. In India, farmers have blocked a nationwide rail system in protest against the government's controversial agricultural laws. Authorities have already tightened security in several states after the protest call. Earlier, the government warned of legal action against the farmer leaders if they attempt to stop the trains. On Wednesday, the agitation forced the railways to either cancel or divert trains in the Punjab state. The farmers are protesting against the reforms that allow the government to stop buying grain at fixed prices. Over 200 farmers have reportedly died during their agitation since November last year. Two more Dalit teenage girls have been found dead in their family's field in Unnao district of Uttar Pradesh state. The deaths mark the latest addition to the long list of subcaste Hindu girls being molested and killed in India. Police say another 17-year-old girl, also found at the scene, is in the critical condition. They suspect it is the case of poisoning with no signs of struggle at the site and no injury marks. However, the girl's brother claims the victims were found with their hands and feet tied up. India's opposition parties, including Congress, said the police are downplaying the case. They said such incidents have become common under the rule of the BJP government. In December, a similar incident of gang rape and killing of subcaste Hindu girl sparked outrage. China says a U.S. return to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal is the only way to resolve the ongoing deadlock. In a briefing, a foreign ministry spokesperson urged Washington to lift all sanctions against Iran. Hua Chunying said the nuclear issue is at a critical stage and called on Tehran to fulfill its commitment to the agreements as well. This comes a day after the UN nuclear watchdog said its chief will visit Iran on Saturday to find a solution for continuing inspections in the country. Top diplomats from European powers and the United States are scheduled to hold talks today to see how to revive the nuclear deal. US President Joe Biden has emphasized support for the recent peace deals between Israel and the countries in the Arab and the Muslim world. Biden reiterated Washington's support in his first official phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Talking to reporters at the Oval Office, Biden said he had a good conversation with Netanyahu. In a statement, the White House said the two leaders stressed the need to continue close consultation on regional issues, including Iran. It said Biden underscored the importance of working to advance peace between Israel and Palestine. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's office said both the sides agreed to work together to bolster the steadfast bilateral alliance. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says Cairo will support Libya in its aim to achieve stability. Sisi said this during a meeting with incoming Libyan Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbeibeh in Cairo. In a statement, the Egyptian presidency said Cairo will soon reopen its embassy in the capital Tripoli. It adds that Egypt is ready to provide all its expertise and experience to help put Libya on the right track. After the meeting, Dbeibeh said he looks forward to a strategic relationship between the two countries. Egypt had been one of the most prominent backers of the renegade commander Khalifa Haftar and closed its Tripoli embassy in 2014. Turkey's parliament is set to form a subcommittee to probe rising levels of racism and Islamophobia in European countries. In a statement, head of Ankara's Human Rights Committee, Hakan Şavşoğlu, said that racism in Europe is culturally transforming into Islamophobia. He said the Council of Europe, OSCE group, and the European Union have not been able to form a clear position on anti-Islamism. Şavşoğlu said a subcommittee will hold talks with the international institutions and organizations on this issue. The subcommittee will start its work after the member lawmakers have been assigned by the Human Rights Committee. Moving on to Myanmar, where the hackers have attacked military-run government websites as a cyber war erupts after authorities shut down the internet. This comes as hundreds of thousands marched in the country, vowing to remain defiant in their bid to end military rule. A group called Myanmar Hackers says it has disrupted multiple websites, including the central bank and the state-run broadcaster MRTV. Meanwhile, the military has issued arrest warrants for 6 celebrities, accusing them of encouraging the anti-coup movement. The actors and singers have been campaigning for raising funds for the movement. The military said the celebrities have been charged for allegedly defaming the state. Earlier, the UN warned of a potential escalation of violence after deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi was slapped with an additional charge. In Georgia, Prime Minister Georgi Ghecharia has announced his resignation, prompting calls for early elections. Talking to the media in Tbilisi, he cited differences with his team over the arrest warrant of an opposition politician for his decision. Ghecharia termed Nika Melia's detention unacceptable, saying it will add to political tensions. But he added that his decision to step down will lower the level of polarization in the country. Following Ghecharia's resignation, the Interior Ministry temporarily postponed Melia's arrest. The ruling Georgian Dream Party is set to nominate a new prime minister within a week. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Pakistan, authorities say the country will begin the second phase of the coronavirus vaccination drive next month. People above 65 years will be given AstraZeneca shots in the second phase after the delivery of 2.8 million doses from the UN-led COVAX facility. Currently, frontline health workers are being administered the shots of the Sinopharm vaccine. The country has so far reported 12,488 deaths and over 567,000 cases of infection. About 1/3 of the US military has refused to receive the COVID-19 vaccine despite significant infection levels in the forces. Meanwhile, Pfizer says South African variant of the virus may reduce antibody protection from the vaccine by 2/3. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 2.43 million lives and infected nearly 110 million. More in this report.
With the government desperate to immunize their population and get the economy back on track, vaccine shortages and their questionable ability to treat new variants are proving to be a roadblock. In the United States, New York's Attorney General has sued Amazon over its handling of worker safety issues at 2 warehouses. The pandemic has left its mark on churches across Latin America as Ash Wednesday passed with a no-touching rule in place. El Salvador has immediately started rolling out its immunization program after the arrival of the first shipment of AstraZeneca vaccines. Meanwhile, an immunization drive is taking place in Serrana City of Brazil, where researchers studying the behavior of the pandemic in a vaccinated population.
The study will allow for countless comparisons. It will allow for an in-depth look at what happens to those who are vaccinated as well as the pandemic. This is an unprecedented study in the world with the complete immunization of a community.
The world's first COVID-19 human challenge study will begin within a month in the United Kingdom, deliberately exposing up to 90 healthy young people to the virus. United Kingdom's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said easing England's restrictions will be done in stages. Food banks in the country are seeing a spike in demand as more families have to rely on free food parcels to survive amid the pandemic.
The demand has been rising really steadily throughout the pandemic, so we had a huge spike at the beginning, and then with each kind of new government announcement, and also with the kind of the situation with employment at the moment, there are just a lot more families and individuals in need, so the demand is really high.
Mental health experts have warned most European countries are ignoring mentally ill patients in their COVID-19 vaccine strategies. Meanwhile, Nepal has approved Chinese COVID-19 vaccine Verocell for emergency use.
In Somalia, security forces have killed 20 Al-Shabaab militants in an operation in southern Lower Shabelle region. In a briefing, top army officials, senior commanders of the terror group were among those dead. A number of soldiers were also wounded in the operation. This comes weeks after a roadside bomb blast killed 12 security agents outside the central town of Dushamareb. In the US, 8 people have been shot in a daytime attack near a bus and subway station in Philadelphia. According to the police, the victims are between 17 to 71 years of age. In a briefing, the police said one of those wounded is in critical condition. Police said they have taken one suspect into custody, while the motive behind the shooting is not yet known. They added 2 guns and 18 bullet shell casings were found from the scene. Police said they are searching for other possible suspects. An iconic building once owned by former US President Donald Trump has been blown up in Atlantic City. The controlled implosion of the Plaza Hotel and Casino comes just a week after Trump's historic second impeachment trial. Following a series of explosions, it took the building about 7 seconds to collapse to the ground. The building came down amid cheers from the people assembled on a nearby pier. Atlantic City Mayor Marty Small said he will use the proceeds from an auction of the demolition button to help a local charity. The Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino has been empty and in disrepair over past few years. Trump, a Republican who was a real estate developer before moving to the White House, opened it in 1984. He lost control of the property in a 2009 bankruptcy. Facebook has blocked Australian users from sharing or viewing news content on its platform. Facebook's move came in response to Canberra's proposed law, which will make tech giants pay for news content on their platforms. The change also denied Australians access to many key government agencies, including police and emergency services. However, Facebook later asserted blocking several emergency pages was a mistake. The Australian government has strongly criticized the move, saying it demonstrated the immense market power of digital giants. Sydney residents say Facebook's surprise decision will have a dramatic impact on the way people access information in Australia.
You know, they're so big and so widely used by Australians that people will just revolt against it. Like, honestly, especially the younger generation, there would just be chaos if they banned Facebook or Google.
In Iran, a 5.6 magnitude earthquake has injured 43 people in southwestern Kogilia and Boer Ahmed province. Local authorities said the quake's epicenter was 10 kilometers east of the provincial capital, Sisakht. Strong tremors were felt in many neighboring provinces, including Isfahan and Shiraz. Electricity and water supplies have been cut off in the area following the earthquake. Frozen waterfalls near China's Jingpo Lake are luring flocks of visitors for sightseeing during the Spring Festival holiday. The impressive Disholo Falls are located on the upper reaches of the Mudan River in Mudan-Jiang city of Heilongjiang province. A spectacular and stunning scene is being presented in the mirror-like Jingpo as frozen waterfalls lie suspended above the water. The freezing temperature and chilly weather has tightly iced the waterfalls, with the layers getting higher and thicker. Reports indicate that frozen waterfalls with a drop of 15 meters and a width of more than 300 meters have taken shape. The Jingpo Lake, which is ice-free all the year due to hot springs, has become a major tourist destination because of its natural beauty. Europe's highest and most active volcano continues to erupt, sending thick smoke into the sky over the Italian island of Sicily. Mount Etna, whose last major eruption was in 1992, rained down ash and stones on the nearby countryside. The 3,330-meter high volcano can burst into spectacular action several times a year. The latest eruption has forced Italian authorities to close down the nearby airport of Catania. However, officials say they are monitoring the situation and the eruption poses no danger to nearby villages as yet. In 1943, landscape painted by Winston Churchill is expected to fetch up to $3.5 million when it will be sold at an auction next month. More in this report.
The late wartime British Prime Minister Winston Churchill painted Tower of the Kutubiyya Mosque in Marrakech. Following the Casablanca Conference of January 1943, Churchill gifted the painting to the then U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who also attended the conference.
The significance of this painting is the fact that Churchill painted it for Roosevelt after they visited together following the conference and then gave it to him as a present. And so it signifies not just their friendship but also the special relationship between Britain and America. The other factor is that Churchill considered his North African views to be a cut above all his other paintings.
A number of factors come together to make this artwork such an important painting.
Churchill painted nothing in the Second World War except this one painting. So for the duration of the whole war, he was so busy, obviously, managing, the war effort from Britain's side of things that he had no time to paint except for this one painting.
The painting is predicted to attract potential buyers from around the globe.
Likely interested buyers will probably come from the UK and the United States, as you might expect, because of Churchill and Roosevelt. But there's a much greater global interest, particularly in Churchill. And so we could see Middle Eastern interest, obviously because of the subject matter as well as interest from the Far East. So truly global interest.
The artwork comes from Hollywood actor Angelina Jolie's family collection with a quite strong estimated price tag in comparison to Churchill's other works.
Well, after surprising people in the US, another mysterious monolith-looking structure has appeared in Congo's capital, Kinshasa. The monolith quickly became a magnet for residents who flocked to the site to catch a glimpse of the wonder. This report has more.
Monoliths first started popping up last year, with the first one appearing in the Utah desert. Earlier this month, a similar structure appeared in Turkey near a World Heritage Site. Kinshasa residents were understandably surprised and took out their phones to take selfies.
One morning we woke up and saw people digging here. They dug during the day. Then at night, early morning, we woke up and saw this metallic triangle. We saw it during the day. We could not understand what it was. We were surprised. Because it is a triangle that we often see in documentaries about Freemasons or Illuminati, we often see that triangle.
Others tried to remove it prompting the local authority to post police in front of it.
It's normal for the police to be there because there are some youths who are ready to move this thing out of here. They are ready to destroy it because they don't know where it is from.
A local mayor said the structure came out of nowhere as there was nothing there a few days ago. The origin of the monolith remains unknown, while rumors on social media claim they might be part of a marketing campaign for a show on the streaming service.
American actress Emma Stone will transform into Cruella de Vil, one of Disney's most feared villains, for her upcoming movie. The trailer for the live-action prequel to 101 Dalmatians has been released already. Find out more details about the highly anticipated film in this report.
Cruella, set in 1970s London, tells the story of young designer Estella before she became the fur-loving and dog-napping baddie.
It well with some people.
In the film, actress Emma Stone sports an eye-catching black and white hairstyle and wreaks havoc as she plays the brilliant but mad character.
Bad. And a little bit mad.
In one scene, Stone sets her cape on fire at a party to reveal a bright red dress underneath, drawing gasps from the crowd. The trailer has garnered some 4.9 million views on Disney's Twitter page in the first 3 hours after its release. Social media users are lavishing praise on Stone's portrayal of Cruella, comparing it to the Joker of the Batman fame. The film will be released in May and is directed by Craig Gillespie.
American pop star Demi Lovato says she had 3 strokes and a heart attack because of the drug overdose in 2018. Lovato made the comments while promoting a new documentary on her struggle with addictions. Find out more details about the documentary in this report.
Little red wine, I'll be fine.
I've had so much to say over the past 2 years wanting
Although Demi Lovato has spoken about her near-death experience in the past, there is much the public still does not know about her 2018 meltdown. Lovato is aiming to set the record straight with a new YouTube documentary.
I was dancing with the devil, out of control.
In 2018, the former child star had been found unconscious at her home in Hollywood Hills from an opioid overdose. She was then rushed to a hospital where her oxygen levels fell to dangerously low levels. In the documentary, Lovato said the doctors told her she had 5 or 10 more minutes. Lovato also revealed that she was left with brain damage from the episode that makes driving and reading difficult. The singer said she first started using cocaine when she was 17. The 4-part documentary features Lovato talking about the pressures of confronting to expectations in the entertainment business. The documentary will be released late next month. Lovato made a public comeback at the 2020 Grammy Awards and is now a spokesperson for the mental health app Talkspace.
It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned.
I'm Samar Khan, an adventure athlete and a mountain biker from Lower Dir, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and I've been promoting action sports from last 4 years. My very first journey was from Islamabad to the highest international border, Khunjarab. I paddled for almost 10 days. After achieving that milestone, when I received the appreciation, the respect, so my very next target was something very challenging. I biked again next year for almost 13 to 15 days, and I reached the place called Shigar. It's a cold desert across Kurdu, and after that there's a place called Ascoli, which is the gateway of the biggest mountain ranges of Pakistan. Spending 2 weeks on the longest non-polar glaciers, it's called Biafo, and it was 67 kilometers long. I had to face landslidings. I had to live in the extreme weather conditions. I was contented because I became the first woman who paddle on the world's third largest non-polar glaciers, Biafo. I wanted to represent Pakistan beyond borders on international land, and I'm really, really grateful to ISPR who put their trust on me and who sponsored me for the biggest venture of my life. In 2018, I became the first Pakistani to reach up on the roof of Africa, paddle on it, and bring the honor home.
And Pakistan, Zindabad!
So I'm working with the vision that one day we'll see green shirts, boys and girls, shedding and grinding in X Games, in international championships, inshallah. And we'll be able to represent ourselves as a very peaceful and positive country globally.
Lows and the highs of the business world, the U.S. Federal Reserve has decided to retain its easy monetary policy. The decision made at a meeting of the Federal Open Market Committee. According to the minutes, participants believe the economy is running far short of the committee's goals. The current monetary policy will remain in place until recovery reaches its previous targets. This will keep the short-term interest rates near zero, while the Federal Reserve will maintain its monthly asset purchase of $120 billion. The Reserve said it will wait for price indicators to rise before tightening monetary policy to fight inflation. U.S. stocks led at open as investors were discouraged by a worse than expected jobless claims reading. Facebook shares also dipped as Wall Street assessed the ramifications of its move to block all news content in Australia. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading lower by 0.5%, while the S&P 500 has shed about 0.75%. The Nasdaq Composite slipped by about 1%. Meanwhile, oil prices rose as a cold weather shut a fifth of U.S. refining output and 1 million barrels of crude production. In Palestine, Al-Aqsa Mosque compound has been covered with rare light snowfall as the wintry weather hits the Middle East. The first snow blizzard threatened to paralyze parts of Jerusalem, while meteorologists say more snow is expected by the end of the week. Snowplows and power crews are on the alert in Jerusalem. The approaching storm is expected to be lighter this year. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, Storm Joyce that hit the country on Tuesday is likely to get stronger today. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.